In an era defined by ambition, betrayal, and bloodshed, two titans of the Sengoku period rose to dominate Japan's landscape: Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the cunning strategist who unified much of the nation, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, the patient tactician who would eventually claim ultimate power. This is the story of their rivalry, the deadliest feud of the samurai age. The rivalry began after the sudden death of Oda Nobunaga, the unifier of Japan, at the hands of Akechi Mitsuhide. With Nobunaga gone, his generals scrambled for dominance. Hideyoshi's victory at the Battle of Yamazaki against Mitsuhide was swift, and he quickly consolidated his power in central Honshu. To cement his authority, Hideyoshi constructed the Grand Osaka Castle, a symbol of his ambition to dominate all of Japan. He extended invitations to lords across the land, hoping to secure their allegiance. But not all were willing to bend the knee. Tokugawa Ieyasu, lord of Mikawa and one of Nobunaga's closest allies, was among the holdouts. Cautious and calculating, Ieyasu saw Hideyoshi's rise as a threat to his independence. Their paths were destined to collide. In 1584, tensions boiled over when Oda Nobunaga, a key ally of Hideyoshi, turned against him and sought Ieyasu's protection. Hideyoshi could not ignore this betrayal. Both sides began gathering their forces. Ieyasu fortified Kamikiyama, a critical stronghold in Owari province, repairing Nobunaga-era defenses to withstand a siege. Hideyoshi, meanwhile, relied on his overwhelming numbers and strategic brilliance to intimidate his opponents. Despite having superior forces, Hideyoshi refrained from a direct assault on Kamikiyama. Instead, he built fortifications of his own, turning the campaign into a tense stalemate. To break the deadlock, Hideyoshi's general, Ikeda Tsuneyoki, proposed an audacious plan: a surprise raid on Mikawa, Ieyasu's home province. Tsuneyoki led 20,000 men toward Nagakute, aiming to draw Ieyasu into open battle. The resulting battle was fierce. Ieyasu's forces intercepted Tsuneyoki's raiders, using superior positioning and disciplined tactics to counter their advance. The conflict became one of the bloodiest engagements of the campaign. The turning point came with the deaths of Ikeda Tsuneyoki and his ally Mori Nagayoshi, who fell in the chaos of battle. Their loss shattered the morale of Hideyoshi's forces, forcing them to retreat. Despite this setback, Hideyoshi was not one to dwell on defeat. He shifted his focus to systematically dismantling Nobukatsu's network of strongholds, capturing castle after castle with relentless precision. Meanwhile, Ieyasu launched his counter-campaign, fortifying his alliances and challenging Hideyoshi's grip on the region. Yet, the tide of war was turning against him. In the end, the stalemate at Kamaki proved advantageous for Hideyoshi. He used diplomacy to isolate Ieyasu, forcing Nobukatsu to surrender and leaving Ieyasu without crucial allies. Though the rivalry did not end in outright victory for either side, Hideyoshi's ability to outmaneuver Ieyasu politically ensured his dominance for the time being. However, this was merely the beginning of a much larger struggle. But the rivalry between Hideyoshi and Ieyasu did not end with military campaigns alone. As the dust of the battlefield settled, both leaders turned to the art of diplomacy and strategy in a new arena: political maneuvering. Hideyoshi, ever the master of consolidation, sought to neutralize Ieyasu not through swords but through alliances. He arranged marriages between his family and Ieyasu's, a calculated move to bind their fates together. Yet, even as he extended this olive branch, Hideyoshi worked tirelessly to ensure his dominance remained unchallenged. One of Hideyoshi's boldest moves was the introduction of the Sword Hunt Edict, a sweeping policy to disarm the population and centralize power under his rule. With peasants and rival factions stripped of their weapons, his position as the supreme ruler of Japan seemed unassailable. Ieyasu, however, was not so easily subdued. He accepted Hideyoshi's overtures, outwardly complying while secretly strengthening his own position. Relocating to the Kanto region after being granted control of vast lands, Ieyasu began laying the foundations of his future shogunate. Even as Hideyoshi reached the zenith of his power, cracks began to show in his empire. His invasions of Korea, launched in an attempt to extend his dominance overseas, drained resources and strained the loyalty of his vassals. Meanwhile, Ieyasu bided his time, watching and waiting as Hideyoshi's ambitious ventures faltered. When Hideyoshi passed away in 1598, leaving his young son Hideyori as his heir, the balance of power shifted dramatically. Ieyasu seized the opportunity to position himself as the true leader of Japan. He faced opposition from the loyalists of the Toyotomi clan, but his patience and careful planning paid off. The climactic moment came at the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, where Ieyasu's forces decisively defeated the Toyotomi loyalists. This battle not only ended the Sengoku period but also marked the beginning of a new era, the Tokugawa shogunate, which would rule Japan for over 2 centuries. In the end, the rivalry between Hideyoshi and Ieyasu was more than just a contest of power. It was a clash of 2 distinct approaches to leadership. Hideyoshi was a man of bold moves and grand visions, a unifier who brought Japan together through sheer will and ingenuity. Ieyasu, on the other hand, was the patient tactician, content to wait for his moment and strike when the time was right. With Ieyasu's victory at Sekigahara, the political landscape of Japan irrevocably shifted. The Tokugawa clan's grip on power tightened, but Ieyasu knew his triumph was only the beginning of a much larger endeavor. To ensure lasting stability, he meticulously dismantled any remaining threats to his authority while laying the groundwork for a new era. In 1603, Ieyasu formally received the title of shogun, cementing his authority as the de facto ruler of Japan. This was not merely a ceremonial honor. It symbolized the culmination of decades of ambition, strategy, and resilience. The Tokugawa shogunate would become one of the most enduring political regimes in Japanese history. However, the shadow of Toyotomi Hideyoshi still lingered. Though Hideyoshi's son, Hideyori, was spared after Sekigahara, Ieyasu kept a wary eye on the young heir. Hideyori's presence at Osaka Castle, Hideyoshi's grand fortress, was a reminder of the Toyotomi legacy, and many loyalists continued to rally around him as a symbol of resistance. By 1614, tensions reached a breaking point. Ieyasu, now retired but still wielding immense influence, accused Hideyori of harboring ambitions to overthrow the Tokugawa shogunate. This was the pretext Ieyasu needed to launch an assault on Osaka Castle, leading to the winter siege of Osaka. Despite the castle's formidable defenses and the fierce loyalty of the Toyotomi retainers, Ieyasu's forces proved relentless. After months of stalemate, the Tokugawa army employed cunning tactics, breaching the castle's outer defenses and forcing Hideyori into negotiations. But the peace was short-lived. In the spring of 1615, Ieyasu launched the summer siege of Osaka, determined to eliminate the Toyotomi threat once and for all. This time, the battle ended in a decisive Tokugawa victory. Osaka Castle fell, and Hideyori, along with his mother, Yododano, committed seppuku. The Toyotomi line was extinguished, marking the final chapter of the Sengoku period. In the end, Japan emerged stronger, its people united under a centralized government that would endure for over 250 years. The deadliest rivalry of the Sengoku period had carved the path for peace, but at a cost measured in blood, ambition, and the dreams of 2 extraordinary men.